In 2011 at the Spike Video Game Awards, there was a new game that was announced that no one had ever heard of before. And the name was pretty peculiar, but at the time it was just a simple idea that not many people really knew about or had that much of information for.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go into too much detail right now since we wanted to just have a little bit of a teaser out there, but I can tell you traditionally we make shooters, and shooting it's in there, but it's really not what the game's all about. It's really a game that is more about survival than anything else.
But it was called Fortnite. That's right, Fortnite existed in 2011. At least the idea of it did. Which means it's older than basically 90% of not only the people that are watching this video, but also the people that play the game. Which is probably why you're watching this video to begin with. This was 2011, which was literally 6 years before Fortnite, the actual game itself, was playable in the way that we see it today. Actually, that only became a thing in late 2017, when you could finally play the game, and even back then, it was pretty similar to the same way that we could see it as today. It's pretty much the same island that you can jump from a flying imaginary bus, and basically once you hit the ground, your only goal is to just end up being the first one out of around 100 other people who are trying to do the same thing as you. And of course you have all of these resources, all of these building materials, and all of these different things that you can use for your own advantage, and you can pretty much use that to use your brain in the process of winning the victory royale. And you could just sit in your gaming chair, in your makeshift gaming setup, and just keep doing that over and over again all day long. The game is pretty much just as simple as it is successful. And every single person I'm imagining who is watching this video has at the very least played the game once. Because if I've played the game more than once, I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume that you have. Because back in 2017, when I first saw the game at one of my friends' house, I just randomly saw them playing this brand new, weird, cartoonish game that I had never seen before. It kind of looked like Call of Duty at first, except maybe with a different texture pack if Call of Duty equaled Minecraft. So I just asked my friend what it was, and long story short, that's pretty much how I found out about the game. I'm not the type of person to enjoy games like this, but I'm pretty sure anyone with more than half a brain can realize that Fortnite definitely takes advantage of things that make it incredibly addictive. I mean, it can't really get that much more simple. You go into a giant flying bus and you jump out, and then you do everything of which I just said over and over again. It seems like too simple of an idea to be that successful, but bring in all of the thousands of different additions, DLC, and random things that are updated into the game at one point on almost every single day basis. With the multiple different seasons that constantly add in new content within the game, which basically fill out the story of the game itself, leading up to this very point right now, we can see, even though from the outside looking in, it may look quite docile, it actually has a lot more to it than you think. Which is why this is very concerning and confusing. What does this mean, and why did this all of a sudden take over every single person's launch screen of Fortnite itself? Why is it that when you enter the game, now all you're met with is just this slick Michael Bay looking animation of the entire universe just collapsing into a singularity and then forming into this giant spinning dark nothingness? Because this to this very day is all you'll see when you try to play Fortnite. Even on Fortnite's official Twitter account, they have an active live stream which basically has this spinning ball of death similar to that of a Mac laptop from 2009 when you try to play a game that requires more than 2 GB of RAM. This thing has just been sitting there and spinning non-stop. Now why is this a thing? Well, millions of people clearly want to know why as well, since it's trending worldwide. Well, guess what? I actually have the answers to that. And the answer is it's a publicity stunt. Fortnite, aka Epic Games, the company that created Fortnite, simply wants attention to go back into the game because attention most definitely has not been too affluent with it recently. As a matter of fact, Fortnite is at the lowest point in its relevancy that it ever has been in its entire life. Within the first couple of months of it being launched back in 2017, it was more popular already than Minecraft. Minecraft, the game that literally now has over 100 million players, it was dwarfed at one point just due to this default dancing, animated, cartoonish battle royale game, which wasn't even the first battle royale game in its own concept. In its own right, it was the most unique, but at the same time, Well, definitely not the first. And I've made an entire video about a year ago on why exactly this game became so successful and popular, so I don't think I really need to discuss that too much here, but you can go and check that out if you want. As of right now, I'm here to discuss exactly what happened to the game. How could such a popular sensation, which literally surpassed the popularity and traction of that of actual mainstream media stuff like movies, TV shows, news, with the audience of more than 10 times of some of these things, all of a sudden become what it is today? Something that's just been drowned out and kind of forgotten, not really as in the limelight as what it seemed to be before. Well, in my opinion, there's plenty of reasons why. But there is two key reasons, and that is because the repetitiveness and the greed. Now, these are two key things that kill off every single game, because simply, the first reason, repetitiveness, is what causes someone to eventually lose interest of a game because it doesn't offer them anything new anymore. For example, if you lost interest in Tetris, it's probably just because, well, when you play Tetris, all you do is just try to make these falling blocks fit together in the most efficient way, and eventually you realize that what you're doing with your life is just playing with a bunch of falling blocks. So you move on to the next best thing, that just so happens to be called Terraria, in which you walk around in a two-dimensional universe as a very pixelated person, fighting all of these thousands of different creatures and mythological entities just to try to survive and build the greatest fort. And then you realize you're playing basically a makeshift version of Half-Life on your iPad, so you move on to the even better next thing, called Minecraft. And then Minecraft eventually gets boring, not because of something that the game did wrong, but because your own imagination fizzled out and you no longer knew what to do with it. But then it all of a sudden became popular again because, well, your imagination got recovered and it reincarnated into a magical, lovely thing of what we can see today. Or it's most likely just because of PewDiePie's Minecraft Let's Play. I mean, let's be real here. But at the end of the day, we all move on from things and we all go on to the next best thing. Now, the example of Fortnite is a perfect representation of what happens after this. After the repetition, after the same thing happens, after the game is established and people enjoy it for a certain amount of time, the game producers know that the clock is ticking for them. They don't have forever to keep the audiences entertained, and they don't have forever to basically make people want to continue playing their stuff. And that's because there's only so much you can do with a certain game in terms of getting people to be interested in it. Because the main concept of Fortnite is flawed in the reason that you can really only add on to the game with different items, downloadable things, features, in-game props, dance moves, animations, and so on and so forth. However, the concept of the game stays the same. And if it were to be changed, then the actual game itself would no longer be Fortnite, it would be something else. Like Night Fort, or the Night of Fort, or etc., whatever you want to come up with in your head. You can do pretty much anything to keep the audience's short attention span onto one specific topic for as long as you want, just to milk it to any extent, and to a certain amount, it actually works. However, it comes to a point where you simply cannot do it anymore. The same reason why certain YouTube channels that only stick to one specific genre or topic of video are only inevitable to die out and lose popularity because, well, you who watches these videos will no longer be interested in it 2 years from now. Like you who watches this video will no longer be interested in Fortnite 2 years from now. I highly doubt it, at least, unless you're Ninja. And if Ninja's watching this video, then you're probably pretty butthurt at what I'm saying. I just want to say nothing personal, and it's not your fault that this game is finally going to rest in peace. But you have to admit that it is the reality of things. So that is what comes to this point in time right now, where we are sitting on this black screen, watching this seemingly spinning ball or spinning vortex of death, possibly representative of some kind of a black hole that ate up the entire Season 11 map of Fortnite. We are sitting there confused and dazzled and not exactly expecting what to happen next. But obviously, there is something that's going to happen next. Because Epic Games is a company that generates hundreds of millions of dollars on a monthly basis from Fortnite. At least they used to. I'm too lazy to actually look up the exact amount that they make anymore, because the sources are pretty hard to find considering that there's literally hundreds of thousands of news articles written about the game every single day. But we can pretty much assume that there's still quite a hot barrel of cash that's rolling in every single day for them. and that's definitely not something that any wise company would let go of. So this is clearly something that was instituted just to try to get people's attention and the mainstream light to shine forth on the game once again, and thus bring back those Fortnite gamers that Minecraft so bitterly stole away from them so quickly in order to finally regain their relevance. Will this work? Possibly, but most likely in the long run it won't. As we can see, the trend is definitely not in their favor. Will this be a complete reversal? Probably not. And I'm definitely not a time traveler, so don't ask me in the comment sections what's going to happen after this black ball of nothingness stops spinning. But to be perfectly honest with you, if I were to predict it, it would be absolutely nothing, just the continuation of Fortnite Season 11, and everything that you would expect out of a new season of the game. So will Fortnite ever end legitimately in the future? Well, as it stands now, the answer is open for you to decide for yourself. But the real question still remains, what exactly happened to Fortnite? Did it simply die out because people stopped liking it anymore because it's boring and repetitive after a while? Did the greed of Epic Games set in too much after they tried to add so much stuff into the game and simply do anything in their feasible capability to try to keep the game popular, leading to its ironic death? Possibly all of the mix together. Well, the real answer is, what happened to Fortnite is the same thing that happened to any other game. As I mentioned before, all games fall victim to this. It's the history of games, and it's the history of basically all media and content in general. They lose interest and popularity. For example, the show The Walking Dead used to be the most watched show on AMC and some other networks as well, bringing in literally almost 20 million viewers every single episode, but now seemingly hard to even achieve 5 million. Does it mean that the show has lost quality or lost the effort of the interesting aspects of it? Most likely not, but it's the simple lifespan that you can possibly milk out of one simple concept, and the concept of Fortnite is definitely not immune to that. So this is most likely the slow, inevitable end of Fortnite, even though this spinning black hole may not individually be the very end. So, the downfall of Fortnite, and the downfall of the Fortnite clickbait, and the Fortnite careers, and the Fortnite trending section, and the Fortnite version of Twitch, it just might be the end of an era or an end of a generation in general for humanity itself. Although that might be going a little bit too far, since I believe that there's probably just maybe a little bit more important things going on in the world than Fortnite, but I don't know, that's debatable. That's up for you to decide. And that's why I left that poll up into the top right corner of this video for you to make up your mind personally. As for me, I'm willing to wait and see what the future holds for this game, and I'm excited to find out just as much as you are. So are you an avid Fortnite player? If you are, answer that poll up into the corner right now, and also tell me into the comment section, because I would actually be very interested in learning that. As for me, my name is Dallas, aka Infernus, the senior game analyzer and death predictor, and the infamous hard to swallow red pill giver to all of YouTube, Thetekkitrealm, and I highly appreciate you watching this video. Now this video is going to be posted about a day after I'm recording this right now, so I really hope that that spinning thing is actually still happening, otherwise basically half of this video won't make any sense, and I'll basically pretty much be living in the past, so that would kind of suck a little bit. But hopefully that won't happen and we'll have to wait a little bit longer, just in some kind of climactic speculation, I suppose. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
He